South Korea's President Moon Jae-in said on Thursday that he pledged to upgrade the country's alliance with the United States in a phone call with President Joe Biden. The call comes at a time when Moon, who had offered to be a mediator between Pyongyang and Washington, faces challenge of getting the stalled North Korea talks back on track with the US. North Korean leader Kim Jong-un and former US President Donald Trump agreed to work towards the denuclearization of the Korean peninsula at their first summit in 2018, but the second summit and subsequent working-level talks fell apart. Moon also welcomed America's return in the midst of mounting global challenges, the COVID-19 pandemic, climate change, and economic polarization. South Korea's unifications minister in charge of inter-Korean affairs had called for the US to be flexibly enforce sanctions aimed at curbing Pyongyang's nuclear programs to revive denuclearization talks. Pakistan on Wednesday formally started their drive to administer China-donated Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccines to its frontline healthcare workers across the country. The vaccination drive was formally kicked off simultaneously in all 4 provinces and federating units of the country where chief ministers, senior ministers and health officials witnessed the administration of the vaccine doses to a few members of frontline medical staff representing their community. Talking at the launch ceremony at the NCOC headquarters, Special Assistant to the Pakistani Prime Minister on Health, Faisal Sultan, expressed his gratitude to China for helping Pakistan administer the vaccine to its frontline medical staff. He said that the Sinopharm COVID-19 vaccine has an impressive efficiency rate and it has been approved by multiple countries around the world, adding that it is completely safe to use and the medical staff will receive great benefits from it. Talking about the vaccination plan of his country, he said that the Pakistani government will try to inoculate all the people who are eligible to receive the vaccine before the end of this year. The China-donated vaccine will be administered to healthcare workers in the first phase, whereas in the second phase, Pakistan will procure vaccines to administer to about 9.5 million citizens above the age of 65 years old. Syria's air defense systems confronted Israeli missiles in the southern region late on Wednesday. The Israeli military declined to comment. State media said the Israeli aggression targeted the southern region of Quneitra, and witnesses in Damascus said they heard sounds of explosions. The state news agency cited a military source saying there were no casualties and that losses were limited to material damage. Israeli officials have previously said the Air Force struck hundreds of what they deem Iranian targets in Syria, where Tehran-allied militias have fought in Syria's war in support of Damascus. Brazil's Air Force transported coronavirus patients from overwhelmed hospital in Manaus, with the city seeing an upsurge in cases following a local variant of the virus. According to reports, 15 patients were transferred to another medical facility on Wednesday. In total, over 470 patients have been transported from Manaus amid reports of shortages in oxygen to treat patients. Manaus, in the northern state of Amazonas, has been hit hard by a brutal second wave that has pushed the city's emergency services to the limit. After reports the city ran out of oxygen last month, the federal government has stepped in to fly in tanks from across the country in order to save people from suffocating to death. The region is also the birthplace of a new coronavirus variant with similar mutations to those from Britain and South Africa that researchers believe is more transmissible and may be playing a role in the dire state the city finds itself in. A group of rambunctious guinea pigs had a ball with a large platter of snow at the Smithsonian National Zoo in Washington. Several tiny snowmen were erected containing bits of food, but the guinea pigs wasted little time toppling the snow formations to find the yummy treats within. Zookeepers at the Amazonia exhibit have learned enrichment exercises like those involving snow make mealtime fun for the resident guinea pigs, which enjoy eating a variety of vegetables including carrots, lettuce and green peppers. Guinea pigs are common house pets in North America, but have different roles in the Peruvian Andes and other parts of the Amazon where they were originally domesticated. Rohingya refugees in Bangladesh expressed fear for their people still in Myanmar after the country's military seized power in a coup. Democratically elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi was detained on Monday along with other leaders of her National League for Democracy party in early morning raids. Bangladesh called for peace and stability following the coup and said it hoped its neighbour makes genuine efforts to move forward the stalled process of voluntary repatriations of Rohingya Muslim refugees. Mainly, Muslim Bangladesh had sheltered 1 million Rohingya who had fled violence in Buddhist-majority Myanmar, where most of them are denied citizenship. A UN-backed repatriation process has failed to take off despite multiple attempts from Bangladesh, which has now started sending some refugees to an isolated island in the Bay of Bengal. The UN Security Council was due to meet later on Tuesday amid calls for a strong global response to the military's latest seizure of power in a country blighted for decades by army rule. Resistance to Monday's army takeover in Myanmar is growing, with residents of the biggest city, Yangon, banging pots and pans and honking car horns. Medical staff in several major cities are planning strikes, while activists are calling for a campaign of civil disobedience. However, correspondents say the military appears firmly in control. Calls are growing for the release of elected leader Aung San Suu Kyi, who has not been seen since her detention. Over 100 lawmakers had been confined by the military in their accommodation in the capital, Nai Pi Tao, but have now been told they can leave. The military took power in the early hours of Monday and declared a year-long state of emergency after accusing Ms. Suu Kyi's party of fraud over its recent election win. Car horns and the banging of cooking pots could be heard in the streets of Yangon in a sign of protest. Youth and students groups also called for civil disobedience campaigns, and a Facebook page for the campaign gained over 100,000 likes. Doctors working in government hospitals said they would stop work from Wednesday to push for Ms. Suu Kyi's release. Some medics are resorting to wearing symbols in silent protest. There have been no official statements on Ms. Suu Kyi's exact whereabouts since she was detained in pre-dawn raids on Monday. But unnamed sources from within the NLD said both she and President Win Myint were being held under house arrest. The Boston Dynamics robot Spot can now be fully remote controlled from anywhere in the world using a web browser-based platform called Scout. Previously, Spot was controlled via a bespoke tablet, which meant that the operator had to be nearby, said the firm's Vice President Michael Perry. Boston Dynamics said it has sold 400 Spot robots in the last year. They are being used in construction, deep underground mines, nuclear power plants, and offshore oil rigs. Despite relatively limited sales to date, the company's new owner believes there is huge potential for the business. Google's parent, Alphabet, had sold the enterprise to SoftBank in 2017 for the much lower reported sum of about $100 million. A video of Spot sitting itself down onto a charging dock using a skipping rope, opening doors, moving objects, and climbing stairs was released to mark the latest development. The robots are commonly used to patrol sites and gather data, the firm said. Using Scout, the robot can now be controlled remotely with either a keyboard or a joystick via a web browser. If Spot falls out of communication range, it will retrace its steps until the last point at which it received a signal. By highlighting an area of the camera display on screen, Spot's camera can zoom in on it. However, companies will need to take safety precaution if they intend to use the robot without anyone physically close by to supervise it.